Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Just got this little X-wing here that might play well. Minifigures line. All right. May the 4th be with you. Happy Star Wars Day, everyone. All right. I'm decked out in my Millennium Falcon shirt for good measure. We are ready to go. We are ready to complete our training. And I'm super excited about this today. So welcome. Thanks for joining us. May the 4th be with you. Cool. So special edition here of Play Well Live Challenge Edition, May the 4th edition. We're going to be doing some sweet Star Wars themed challenges here today. I had way too many ideas for today and finally settled on what to do. So we'll get to that. Yeah, first of all, here I've got my little X-Wing that I was flying. Right? Oh, okay. I guess I'm not in attack position anymore. There's nothing to attack. So there we go. Cool. So, Star Wars. It was. I've already talked about like Harry Potter on some of these live streams and some other things. Star Wars was like, one of the initial kind of fantasy obsessions of mine. My brother and I were building Star Wars Lego sets long before Star Wars Lego sets were an actual thing. We had everything you can imagine, and then they started coming out with the sets, and we were like, we've already been doing that. We don't need the sets. But yeah, so there's just so many cool things to build. Since I started with Playwell, one of my favorite classes to teach, always coming back to it, is our Jedi engineering ones, and they're just so much fun. You just jump right into it and just immerse yourself in the story, and there's so much to interact with. So that's why I was just really inspired and excited for today, for this challenge. So we had some different ideas come in. I tried some things on my own. I'll show you a couple maybe of failed or partially completed challenges here before we get to my actual one for the day. But yeah, thanks for joining us. So Star Wars challenges, one of the ideas that I saw put out there was to build an X-Wing, right? X-Wing's iconic, super cool ship, right? Here's my like basic version of it, right? So I started adding on to an X-Wing that would be able to be, controlled with the wings opening and shutting with gears and things. And I'm like, well, that's cool, but I've done that before. I've done that before in class, so I didn't want to go too much further with that one. There's lots of ways to make X-Wings. Then I thought, walkers. I've always really enjoyed making the walkers, like AT-ATs. AT-ST is a little trickier, right? So I started to work on some ideas for an AT-ST, which let me show you what I got here. Whoop, turn off that battery pack. Come here, battery pack. So I started working on the frame of an AT-ST because I think they're really cool and it's really unique engineering. But it's tricky, right? Because there's only 2 legs. So when one of them walks, it has to be able to balance on the other one. So they have to have like really wide feet. And I tried to get sort of the motion of that AT-ST, that chicken walker, going. And here's sort of what I came up with, which is interesting. Okay, it's cool. And it was, all right, you see I've got my worm gear up there. That's that little one that's spinning. Okay, but I couldn't get this one quite where I wanted to. It's a challenge I might come back to. Okay, I might come back to this AT-ST challenge. And I didn't build any of the top of that. Hi, Caleb. Thanks for joining. But this is one I might come back to. But right now, it for sure doesn't work, right? It's got some cool motion, but it doesn't do what I need it to do. So that's one that I might come back to maybe in a future session if I feel so inspired. Okay, but it's really fun to just tinker with these, right? This one's got some the chicken walker, that AT-ST has a really cool shape of the legs, and that was kind of what I was trying to recreate with some of these. I've got my gears up here, but then I've got that eccentric motion that I've tried before with some other things, and then we've got all these linkages that help the legs kind of move and contract, right? Thanks, Lara. But it's just tinkering, just exploring with things. I built lots of different ones of these, and I wanted to kind of take it to the next level with this one. So that was a cool attempt. but it's still very much a work in progress. So we'll see what happens with that if I come back to it. But then I got another suggestion that I was like, yeah, that's not something maybe that people would normally build from Star Wars out of Lego, and it sounds like a cool challenge. So I may or may not have also promised a little bit of a Star Wars Lego themed wrap. So, I mean, I gotta do what I gotta do here. So, it's another edition of Play Well Live, and for today's build challenge, I went to the hive mind, and they didn't let me down, just like Chewie and Han, and they set me the challenge of a walking Lego Tauntaun, the planet of Hoth. It doesn't get real warm, but the Tauntauns have adapted so that they can perform extremely well in the cold, but don't stay out too late, and with the way that they smell, they're not the best choice for a date. So back to the challenge, Mike. Let's focus on the Lego. With Star Wars, it's too easy to get carried away, though. You all gave us so many cool ideas for today, so please keep building those challenges and send them our way. All right, so if you heard there, our challenge for today was a walking Lego Tauntaun. Tauntauns are hilarious on the planet of Hoth. These like reptilian kind of camely, I don't know, what how would you describe a Tauntaun? Maybe give your best description there maybe in the comments. But yeah, they're really a unique creature, and I wanted to recreate a walking one, right? Not just make kind of a cool model of one. Then I got a little carried away with making some interesting features on it, and I want to show you some different build techniques I used as well. But it's also not quite done. So let's take a look at my Tauntaun. All right, I had a ton of fun making the face because Tauntauns, I think, have a really interesting personality and a unique look. So hi, Johnny. Hi, Alex. Welcome. Thanks, Caleb. So here's my Tauntaun. I had a lot of fun creating this face. They've got kind of those horns on the side, and they always have a kind of a silly personality, I think. So I put the tongue sticking out a little bit to the side there. So that was fun. But all right, let's see this Tauntaun here. Let me lower you down here. Here's my Tauntaun. Whoa, that's sort of the sound they make, I think. All right, so I'm going to show you where this is at right now. It's a little bit incomplete still, so we're going to see if we can finish it up here. Okay, but I've got my legs here on the sides. Now, the method that I used here requires there to be a little bit of a platform on the inside to help support it. So you can see that under the middle there, right? I made it white so it looks like it's kind of resting on the snow there. But let me see how this is going here. And I'll see if you can help me with the problem I'm having. Let's see. Whoa! Okay, well, let's see here. The head is one thing, I guess. All right, it's sort of working, right? It's sort of doing its thing. But it's a little off. Whoop, and that keeps falling off there, huh? Okay, so poor Tauntaun. You know, things happen. It's a dangerous world out there. All right, let's get that Tauntaun put back together. So I'm having a little trouble walking here, and my legs are getting stuck back like this. Do you see that? So the legs aren't staying straight on the ground there. So that's the tricky part here that I want to try to address in the time that we have together here. So let's see here. Hi, Kirsten. Thanks for joining us. And thanks, Rachel and Owen. I appreciate that. So let's do a little more work here on our friendly Tauntaun, okay? So I'll show you what I'm doing to make this walk, because this is a really interesting mechanism, and I've used this a lot before in classes to build different kinds of walkers or droids or things like that, but I made some modifications today, and I want to show you a little bit about that. So let me take off one of the legs here. We'll look at how this works, and then we'll look at modifying it to make it walk a little bit smoother, a little bit better, okay? All right, so I took one of the legs off of there. Here's my leg. Okay, and you'll see a number of gears in there, right? Okay, so basically, if I had a motor on this gear, right, it would spin this big gear here, and I have an axle going all the way through to the other side. Let me pull off this. You can see there's another gear. There's the axle sticking out on this side, right? So this one gear here turns and powers both of the legs at the same time so that it can walk nicely, right? Or you can try to alternate them and see what that looks like. And then on those gears, you see I've got little round holes on them. That's really nice for, I've talked about this before, that eccentric motion, that eccentric motion, taking something that is spinning, and then by putting something around the outside of it, you give it that up and down motion. So that's what happens when I attach my pin there and my leg, thus, right? I've got a pin on there on that leg. Attach that onto there. And then when I turn it on, I go from that circular motion to my up and down motion. And it's kind of backwards. There we go. Okay, you see how that's going? Up and down now, right? Oh, except I don't have the other leg on, so it just popped out. There we go. All right, so there's that motion, right? Going from circular motion of a gear to up and down, okay? But when I first built this, it was going too fast. And I was already using a really small gear on the motor to a really big gear for the movement of the legs. Okay, we've talked about that before. So I wanted to slow this down, okay? And I used a technique that I used a couple of weeks ago in one, where you essentially go small to big and then small to big again on the gears. So it's called compound gearing. So take a look inside here. You can see the very top little gear there is the one that's on my motor, okay? So if I turn this on, you can see that little one spin really fast, right, on the inside. Well, that little gear on the inside, that 8-tooth gear, is meshing with, on the inside there, my 24-tooth gear, okay? So 8 to 24, smaller gear to a bigger gear, okay? 8 goes into 24 3 times. So it means that that 8-tooth gear has to spin around 3 times to get my 24-tooth gear to spin once, okay? But then, from there, on the same axle that I have that 24-tooth gear, coming out to the edge now, I have this little 12-tooth bevel gear, okay? So now, this one is already going slower, 3 times slower, basically, than it would have on the motor. And now I'm going from that to this giant one, okay? So I'm slowing down the movement from my motor twice, right? First is by a factor of 3. This one is by a factor of like 3.5 because it's a 12-tooth to a 40-tooth, okay? So I'm essentially slowing it down like 10 times because like 3 times 3.5 or roughly, okay? So my gear now down here is going 10 times slower than my motor is going, okay? So I'm using those ratios, those gear ratios, to slow down my walker. If I did it the other way, if I went big to small, I would be speeding it up. I don't want my Tauntaun to go crazy. He needs to control himself out there in the snow. They don't want to burn their energy too fast. They got to conserve it because it's really cold. And yeah, okay, all right. You get the idea. So let's see here. Then I've got my legs on there. Let's reattach this and see if we can modify a little bit to make our Tauntaun walk a little bit more smoothly. Okay, we'll see here. So I've got my gears there, and we're going to try a couple different things. I'm going to try having them walk with the legs at the same time, and then we're going to walk with maybe like alternating and see what that does. Okay, then I'm going to show you some of the other techniques I used when building this, just to give you some other ideas. Let's see here. So if I put that, if you want them to walk on the same one, you got to put the legs in the same position on each side. Okay. All right. Now we also had a problem with some tilting of this. Okay. So let's see what we can do to fix that. So here's my Tauntaun. Let's take a look again at what it's doing. Okay. Whoa. And it tilts back a little, and the legs don't really meet the ground nicely. You can see this one in the back gets like totally twisted. Oh yeah, this one was way up here. Okay, let's do an adjustment here. This happens sometimes with these walkers, especially when the center section is so heavy, and these little ones here don't have a lot of surface area that they're pushing off. So I'm just going to do one tiny little modification. We're going to see if it helps. This is one that I do a lot of times in class if kids are working on a walker or something like this, and they're having trouble getting it to actually walk or getting it to lift everything that it's trying to lift. So I'm going to swap this out. Let's take a look here. On the bottom, I've got just a little plate here. Tauntaun moonwalk, yeah, sort of. I'm gonna switch out that little plate for a bigger one, just to give it some more area to push off of and some more area to stabilize my walker. And let's see just this one little switch, what difference this makes. Oh, those are different sizes, those two. Let's try to make them the same size. Okay, there we go. So I'm just gonna modify the legs of my Tauntaun real quick, or sort of the feet, just to give it a little more surface to push off of, okay? Let's see here. And let's modify this and see what happens. Let's make sure everything's on there. All right, let's try this again. Whoa, okay. Well, the head, because I wanted it to swivel, is still a little bit loose on there, but look at that. Okay, just by switching out these little plates for something larger, I gave it the surface area it needed to have more stability. And there you go. My Tauntaun is walking pretty nicely, right? It still tips a little, but that's just a function of, oh, wait. Okay, looks like maybe the back is still a little too heavy because it tilts back, right? So if I had some more weight on the front here, or took off some weight on the back, so like you're saying, Caleb, if I took off some of the snow on my Tauntaun's back, that might balance it out a little bit, right? I wouldn't be having it tilt forward so much. Now, I don't know what of this is easily take-offable here. Let's take some snow off of the tail. Let's see if that makes a difference here. Oh, it still tilts back a little bit, huh? Let's see. I'm not sure how much more weight I can take off on the back without making this. All right, I'm just going to take off a little bit of the Tauntaun's tail. That's sort of sad, but okay. Here we go. Whoa, and then it tips forward. Do you see that? So this is pretty finicky, huh? So the balance issue is super important, right? Whoa. It wants to tip forward now. Really interesting. So just that tiny little thing, taking off a few pieces there, okay, makes it, oh, there we go. All right, so it's a little wobbly, but just by adjusting the balance, what's on the front, what's on the back, just 4 pieces, just a few bricks, taking the snow off the back. Thanks for the idea there, Caleb. Okay, was able to give it much more balance and make it walk more smoothly, right? Now, you can change the speed that it walks. You can also change how big of steps it takes. So I want to see if we can get our Tauntaun here in these last couple minutes here to take some bigger steps. He needs to get somewhere quicker, okay? Now, does anyone know what is determining how big of steps my Tauntaun is taking? Right now, sort of just going like, I want it to take bigger steps, right? So we've talked about that eccentric motion, how if something is just in the very center, it's just spinning, right? A gear is just spinning. But the second you put something on the outside, it's traveling farther, okay? If you go further from the center, imagine if our gear is spinning and this is the center. So now, if it's on the outside, it's traveling even further, right? The further out I go, the farther I'm traveling. Okay, so we're gonna make a little modification here to our Tauntaun, and we want to make the legs travel farther. Okay, so I'm gonna take my legs off, and we want to get something out farther from the center of this. So I was already in this hole here. I can't go any further from the center and actually attach it unless I add something else onto there. So let's see if I can add a little something else onto here without running into too many other things. Okay, that should work. So now if I attach my leg out here, it's going to be way further out from the center, right? Now, I don't know what this is going to do. I don't know if it's going to walk correctly or not, or if it's going to keel over. This might be too big of steps. We'll see. Let's go. I'm going to just go in this next hole, not the very outer one yet. I'm going to go in the one further out, and we're going to see what that does to our Tauntaun. So I'm putting the legs now attached further out from the center of my gear, right? So this should accentuate that motion. It should make it take bigger steps. Whoa. Okay, so this head is a little problematic. I get that. Let's see. Oh, back up. Whoa. Okay. You see how much bigger steps it's taking, though? All right, maybe I should just attach this head for good and not have it trying to rotate on here. Let's see. I need my brick separator. Come on there. Yeah. Oh, I'm breaking it as I go here. Okay. So we'll see if this modification is able to work. But I've made this tauntaun so heavy that it might not want to do it for me. We'll see. Okay, let's attach that leg back in there. All right, we'll just try this one last modification here for today and see how this thing walks, right? Okay, there we go. Get my tauntaun's ears back on. Whoa. All right, he's getting a little tired. Okay, let's see here. Tauntaun. Oh, let's reattach that leg. The tricky part here is that when I make it take bigger steps, it also basically puts this center section further off the ground at some times, right? So now I'm really seeing the tipping and that weight issue come into play here. Okay, let's try this one more time. See how it does. Okay, do you see how much bigger steps it's taking? Do you think it can go even further out? I don't know. I don't think it can, but let's try it real quick. Let's make ginormous steps. So now I'm going to that last hole with my pin. I'm going to put it in the very last hole on that little smooth holy beam. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. There, this tauntaun might keel over. Let's see. Whoa! I now have a rampaging tauntaun. Oh my gosh. But do you see how much higher it gets off the ground there? So that makes the tipping a bigger issue, right? Okay. But that was a really cool experiment. I'm gonna go maybe back a leg from there. Let's see. Okay. My tauntaun's gonna take a rest. And I think that was pretty good for today. So that's what I had here. It was a fun challenge to build a Lego tauntaun. Well, keep those challenges coming. Some of these I might come back to later this week too, because I thought there were a lot of really cool ideas for our May the 4th edition. So maybe we'll make it a whole Star Wars week. I don't know. But thank you for joining me today. May the 4th be with you. Be sure to come back tomorrow to check in with Ben. He's got some awesome stuff in store. Yeah, we'll see you all next time. Have a great day, everyone. May the 4th be with you.